YouTube channel, of which we have 3 subscribers.
Hallelujah.
We've had, can't remember which particular sermon it is, but it has had 15 views. And I don't think it was one of my better sermons, but anyway, it's had 15 views, so probably a lot of insomnia has been cured through our channel. So, never fail that Prairie Avenue does not help those in need, even those in need of sleep.
I'll try to keep this still.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've been recording for like 41 seconds.
Okay.
Clear from there?
Clear from there.
Yes.
How far is the one that goes on today is when he's on.
My fellow Prairie Avenuians,
We're gonna have to redo this.
as we gather together here in our beloved fellowship hall, some of us doing dishes in the kitchen. This is certainly the site of many treasured memories that have been often filled, in this space has often been filled with activity. I find myself mindful of our inheritance. This fellowship hall began first as a dream from the ashes of the 1949 fire, which destroyed our original 1924 building. In those following weeks, from April the 12th, 1949, the members of Prairie Avenue Christian Church, under the leadership of Frank Pittman as pastor, Earl Miller as building chairman, and Robert McClure as building fund chairman, began to develop a plan to build a new permanent structure of brick and steel to continue the ministry which began when those members of First Christian and Central Christian churches came together to build the first building in one day in 1924. And as I was saying, here are the blueprints of this very building, put together by Mr. Brown, the architect, in 1950. Now, this is basically our inherited ministry that is now approaching its 94th year this September. And the calling still remains the same as it did on that September 26th day in 1924, for us to reach our East End neighbors through love to Christ. Now, the Building Fund campaign for the new Sanctuary Fellowship Hall, which was proposed at a cost of $60,000 in 1951, began on Wednesday, April the 26th, 1950, just 1 year and 2 weeks after the fire of 49. Groundbreaking was held on October 1st of 1950, and the cornerstone ceremony was on March 22nd, 1951. $60,000 today would be about $650,000 for building this building that we're sitting in now. But on November the 4th, 1951, the congregation gathered for the first time in the worship service in the new, but it was still incomplete, sanctuary. The lights weren't installed, there were pews, there was no carpets.
Wait,
The
what?
windows were in place, and the boiler, I was told, was on. But that new sanctuary building was just half of the dream of 1950. The other half was to build a religious education wing. And that other half began in March of 1965 with a dinner gathering at Central Christian Church. Reverend James Van Leer, writing in the church newsletter that was back then called The Chronicle, in August of 1966, stated the reason to build a religious education wing. And I read from that article. Why do we need to build the education building? We need to build it to fulfill our obligation to the Lord and to society. Others built the churches we have used, and we must make our contribution in our time to the kingdom of God. We need to build this educational building to give our boys and girls what they need. We would not deprive them of medical and dental care and a good public school education. We must not deprive them of spiritual and character training. To fail to give them the best religious training possible would be their loss and our loss too. Through the gifts that God provides to all in all times and in all places, time, talents, and treasure, a 3-story, 17,600 square foot building began its life with a groundbreaking on October the 20th, 1968, at the staggering cost of $242,000. And its formal dedication was on June the 28th, 1970. Again, something that was a dream that was put to paper is something we now live, work, and play in today. Now, I'm sure with each of these bold dreams of building either this sanctuary after the first one burned, or even that larger education wing, we had critics and we had doubters when that dream began, that we couldn't possibly build a $60,000 sanctuary, that we couldn't possibly be able to fund and build a $242,000 education. But despite that criticism or that doubt, we sit here in Fellowship Hall. And we still provide both that spiritual and character training in several of those 14 original classrooms. And our facilities were designed in a time and a place to serve the mission of Jesus Christ, not just in the 1950s and the 1960s, but for the future. We must not deprive them of spiritual and character training. Now, did you know that our education wing was designed with a Sunday school attendance of 366 people in mind? The entire education wing was intended to be K through 12 only. Golden Circle, Christian Comrades, Christian Builders would all still meet in the original building, the sanctuary, the fellowship hall, and those places. Our sanctuary, even if all the pews were put back in their place, only seated on that plan of 1951, 210 people. So, from the very beginning, we put twice the number of people in our education wing than in our worship space. Now, the model for all of our religious education studies was, of course, the public school system of the day, of the 1960s. You will notice this, that each of our classrooms in the education wing has a chalkboard, and there's usually a bulletin board, and there's also this long-running bar where we can tack on in the hallway the art or the creativity of students as they progress through their Sunday school teaching. And it was built entirely for a preschool through high school experience. Several of the rooms, I didn't realize that, for example, the Sunshine Classroom is actually marked on the building plans as the 3-year-old room. Sometimes the Sunshine Classroom behaves like a bunch of 3-year-olds, but there has not been an actual chronological 3-year-old in there in a very long time. And changes do happen rather quickly, even when the building was just new The 5-year-old classroom, for example, became rather quickly the Golden Circle classroom. And from what I've been told about our history was that quite a few of our elderly members of that time in the early 70s were having problems with the stairs in the first place and did not want to go up yet another flight of stairs to where their classrooms were supposed to be. Now, of course, I already talked about the kindergarten room or the 3-year-old room becoming the Sunshine Classroom. And that unstoppable growth. It was fun to read the past couple of weeks, the different articles and the optimism that Decatur was growing and that our membership, which was around 400, would peak at 750 by 1975. Unfortunately, that did not come to be. Decatur started losing population in 1970. Falling all the way to the 2000s. And our buildings are designed for at least 150 people in them. And our worship attendance now stands at 42. We must not deprive them of spiritual and character building. Our inheritance is the stewardship of these well-used buildings. With the gifts of time and talents and treasure, we have already made great progress in reducing our maintenance costs through boiler replacement and through double pane windows, and through replacing all the lights to have better power savings. We continue to work towards replacing the broken air conditioning equipment so that each space within the James Van Leer Education Wing, as it's formally called now, will once again be utilized for what it was purposed for, spiritual and character training. We began sharing our space with Dove program shortly after Dove was established in 1970, including their day nursery at the time and their mother-to-mother programming. And our Dove partnership expanded with the inclusion of the children's clothing room in 2003 and in what was designed to be the original 7th and 8th grade classroom. And recently we have gained the Max program on Wednesdays here from 9 to 11, and his desk sits in the space that's marked on the plans as DRE, of which I have to look up. That would be for the Director of Religious Education. With our careful stewardship, to fulfill our obligations to the Lord and to society, we must continue to still press forward to the next chapter of God's dream at Prairie Avenue. We must develop new ways to provide that spiritual and character training that is still necessary in living as disciples of Jesus Christ. We must renew our commitments of time, talent, and treasure to see God's plan on earth in the east end of Decatur as it is in heaven. The chalkboards of the 1960s must move into the 21st century, where a multimedia, internet-ready presentation program can be utilized to make new disciples who make new disciples. Through your generosity and the availability of reserves set aside for income and capital improvements, we have just ordered today, as a matter of fact, an additional 3 PTAC units to be installed in our food pantry room, our religious education director's office, and the nursery, because we believe that that unit has actually finally died. And air conditioning would be nice with a new baby coming to us. They will be arriving in about 4 to 6 months, and will put us halfway towards that goal of replacing the 24 that we already identified at the beginning of our capital campaign in 2015. We are gathering and negotiating the roof bids to replace the 2 roofs that are currently on top of the James Van Leer Education Wing, with a new sealed roofing system that will last at least 25 to 30 years. But I would like to challenge us to stretch a little beyond just mere roof replacement and formally also put in the education wing, internet, services, and access points throughout all of our facilities. Our goal is to have every room and every floor of our inherited building space available for use for spiritual and character training by the 50th anniversary of the dedication of the education wing. I know you'll all ask, when is the 50th anniversary of the education wing dedication? Well, according to the program, it would be June 28, 2020. 3 years. So let's dream a little bit about 2020 Prairie Avenue. 3 years from now. Our Stephen ministers, they are lay people who are trained to provide one-to-one Christian caregiving for congregation members and the community. Say they are gathered in a small conference room near the Sunday school office on the second floor, having their supervised peer group session going on in that space. And next door, in what is right now our high school classroom, the youth group leaders and youth are planning their next mission trip. Down the hall, maybe there's a social service agency case manager who is meeting with the client to begin the process of managing a household budget for the first time in their lives. And maybe in the Christian Comrades room, some recently unemployed neighbors are utilizing our community computer lab to write resumes and to apply for jobs and get also on-site job training assistance. Maybe in the Golden Circle classroom, there's a group of college students that are discussing their developing business plan to open a new store on East El Dorado. Maybe in the Christian Builders classroom, the Chalice House Development Corporation is looking over maybe some blueprints not unlike these. But instead of building onto our space, they're building their second affordable housing unit on a lot that was bought by the Cloakey Park Community Development Corporation on East Main. And every Sunday, probably 4 classrooms, an elementary, middle, high school, and a preschool class, are gathered and using their iPads and tablet computers to participate in their Sunday school lesson materials, including an online daily devotional. And their Sunday school teachers can track their progress and answer a student's questions in real time online and share that devotional via video access through our internet infrastructure. We must not deprive them of spiritual and character training. In the dedication service program of Sunday, June 28, 1970, the hymn of dedication was "O Thou Whose Hand Has Brought Us," sung to the tune of Stand Up for Jesus, closed with this last verse. And as the years roll over, and strong affections twine, and tender memories gather about this sacred shrine, may this its chief distinction, its glory ever be, that multitudes within it have found their way to Thee. God bless you. And may God continue to bless this part of His body of Christ, Prairie Avenue Christian church. Amen.
Oh, come on.
Thoughts, questions?
Yes.
There's plenty of desserts.